In less than a week, the federal government could run out of money. Lawmakers have until Saturday night to avoid a government shutdown. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has been unable to unite his conference, but says the president is to blame for that. CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion reports.
Can you guarantee that there will not be a shutdown at the end of this week?
Look, I have worked all my time to make sure that there would not be a shutdown.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is urging members to back a package of long-term spending bills to fund agencies from the Defense Department to Homeland Security, but with a caveat to include legislation that beefs up border security, a demand pushed by some conservatives.
Why are you making this such a sticking point to keeping the government open?
Because it's so easy, because the House and Senate didn't pass a new bill. If the president wants to shut the government down because he thinks the border should continue to run like this.
But the legislation is unlikely to pass the Senate and avert a shutdown.
There's no reason for us to be in this position.
In a new video, President Biden warned of the potential consequences, including service members who could go without pay. About 800,000 federal workers could also be furloughed. Jessica LaPointe is a single mom who works for the Social Security Administration.
We're just waiting and almost feeling abandoned by Congress at this point, as we're still expected to work for the American people without getting paid.
And Nikole Killion joins me now. Nikole, the Senate has unveiled a bill, a bipartisan bill, as I understand it, that keeps the government funded. What's the chance of that moving forward?
Well, a short time ago, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise said that it is a non-starter, which we kind of knew because this bipartisan package that was unveiled by the Senate would fund the government through mid-November. But the sticking point for House Republicans is that it includes funding for Ukraine. It also includes disaster relief, but it's that Ukraine funding that really could drive a wedge between many within the House Republican conference. Many conservative members have made clear that they simply are not going to support any additional aid for Ukraine. So if the Senate sends over that package, it is likely to be opposed. As you know, the Speaker can only afford maybe about 3 or 4 votes, but there are more members than that that have expressed reservations about additional Ukraine funding. So that really will be a challenge and a heavy lift for the House if they have to consider the Senate bill, on top of the fact that the Speaker has previously made clear, that he doesn't want to swallow something that the Senate puts over. So, and of course, the House is working on their own plan where they hope to bring up a short-term funding bill, but before they do that, they want to try to get through more of these appropriations bills. So that is a path that House Republicans are taking. So right now, it seems both chambers are at loggerheads.
Let me ask you, Nikole, about the Speaker had at one point said members of his own party want to burn the House down. Now he's blaming the president for his border policies. Does the new emphasis on the border, I know he's talked about it before, but this new emphasis on the border, does that basically suggest that he can't get a majority of his own conference and he's not going to ask for Democratic votes, and he's basically trying to shape the post-shutdown message?
Well, to a certain extent, that could be what's happening. But look, I mean, in terms of this border package, this is something that House Republicans, they already passed. And the Speaker said that languishes in the Senate. And he believes that, this is really the time to take it up. And, that is why he wants to force the president's hand here. But, the interesting thing is that this isn't really even part of a short-term spending package right now. This whole effort to include border security would be part of a Department of Homeland Security appropriations bill. And there's a provision based on a rules package that was passed that would basically bar the Senate from even taking up this bill unless the president signs it into law, which is unlikely to happen. Now, the Speaker says he would like to sit down with the president and talk to him about this, but so far the White House has not indicated whether it's willing to entertain that idea.
Solutions do not seem apparent. Nikole Killion on Capitol Hill, thanks so much.
You bet.